You know, we humans have climbed pretty much everything. We've stood on top of Mount Everest, we've conquered K2, we've tackled the world's highest, most dangerous peaks. But there's this one mountain, much smaller, that no one has ever climbed. Today, we're figuring out why, as we dive into the incredible mystery of Mount Kailash. So what's the deal here? I mean, at just over 6,600 meters, it's way shorter than Everest, and yet no human has ever set foot on its summit. Is there some kind of invisible force field protecting it? Some strange, otherworldly energy? Or is the answer a little more down to earth? Let's find out. All right, to really understand Kailash, you have to start with the legends. And these aren't just any old legends, we're talking about sensational, paranormal claims that have spread all over the internet. And trust me, they are wild. This story is probably the most famous one you'll hear. It was pushed by a Russian doctor named Ernst Moldashev. The story goes that a team of climbers tried to defy the mountain's sanctity and paid a terrible price. They supposedly aged decades in just a few months and died. It's a really chilling idea, right? But believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. From there, the claims just get crazier. Some people say time itself gets warped on Kailash, that spending just 12 hours there is like 2 weeks passing anywhere else. And because of that, your hair and nails start growing at this freakishly fast rate. That same doctor, Moldashev, also claimed the mountain is actually a giant, hollow, man-made pyramid with ancient civilizations sleeping inside. And then there's the biggest theory of all, that it's a literal gateway to another dimension. Okay, hold on. Before we get totally lost in those paranormal rabbit holes, we need to understand the real foundational truth about Mount Kailash. The reason this place is so incredibly special isn't because of time warps or aliens. It's because of its deep, profound importance to not just one, but 4 major world faiths. For hundreds of millions of Hindus, this isn't just a mountain. It is the literal physical home of Lord Shiva, one of their most powerful deities. They see it as the pillar of the entire world, the place where he sits in eternal meditation, literally sustaining the cosmos. And for Buddhists, it's just as sacred. They believe it's the home of a deity named Chakra Samvara, who embodies supreme bliss. In fact, the only person said to have ever reached the top was a great Buddhist sage, Milarepa. And get this, legend says he did it by riding on a single ray of sunlight. Then there's Jainism. To them, the mountain is known as Astapada, and it's the holy site where their very first great spiritual teacher, Rishabdev, achieved moksha, which is the ultimate goal of liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. And finally, for the Bone religion, which is the ancient faith of Tibet that came before Buddhism, Kailash is the axis mundi. Think of it as the cosmic axis, the central pillar connecting our world directly to the heavens. So you see, for literally billions of people on this planet, this isn't just rock and ice. It's the holiest of holy grounds. Okay, so now that we get just how sacred this place is, let's circle back to those wild myths. Let's take a look at the so-called evidence that people point to as proof that something truly otherworldly is going on here. So, if you're talking to someone who believes in the paranormal theories, they'll usually bring up 3 main things. First, its shape. It looks like an almost perfect pyramid with 4 faces pointing to the cardinal directions. Second, the 2 lakes at its base. One is pure freshwater, the other is saltwater. And third, this idea of mathematical perfection, the claim that the mountain is exactly 6,666 kilometers from places like the North Pole and Stonehenge. And you got to admit, that all sounds pretty compelling, right? A perfect man-made pyramid, mystical lakes, a connection to the number 6666. It's a great story. But is any of it actually true? Let's start separating the facts from the fiction. So that perfect pyramid shape, turns out it's not artificial at all. Geologists have a specific name for it. It's a glacial horn. It's a totally natural formation that happens when glaciers grind away at a mountain from all sides for millions of years. It looks man-made, but it's not unique. The famous Matterhorn in the Swiss Alps, it was formed the exact same way. And what about those 2 lakes, one fresh, one salt? Well, science has a perfect explanation for that too. The saltwater one, Rakshastal, is called an endorheic lake. Basically, that just means water flows in, but it has no river flowing out. The only way water leaves is through evaporation. And over thousands of years, as the water evaporates, all the salts and minerals get left behind, making it saltier and saltier. It's just simple geology. All right, now for the big one. The time dilation, the rapid aging. Look, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, only two things can warp time: traveling near the speed of light or being near an insane gravitational field, like a black hole. Mount Kailash has neither, and every single one of those stories about accelerated growth and weird time effects, they all trace back to that one guy, Dr. Moldashev. And let's remember, he was an eye surgeon, not a physicist. And those mathematically perfect distances, the whole 6,666 kilometers thing, well, when you actually measure it properly, the numbers just fall apart. They're not exact. They're just close-ish approximations that have been rounded to fit this spooky narrative. The actual distances are off by dozens, or in the case of Stonehenge, hundreds of kilometers. Which brings us all the way back to those poor Siberian climbers who supposedly aged to death. Well, the Russian Mountaineering Federation, the official group in charge of climbing in Russia, has gone on the record about this. They stated, officially, that no such expedition ever happened. The whole story was made up by a Russian tabloid and then just spread like wildfire online. So if there's no death ray, no time warp, and it wasn't built by aliens, then why? What is the real reason Mount Kailash is the world's most famous unclimbed mountain? Let's finally get to the heart of it. This quote pretty much says it all, and it comes from Reinhold Messner, who's arguably the greatest mountaineer in history. I mean, this is the guy who climbed all 14 8,000-meter peaks first, and climbed Everest without oxygen. If anyone could have climbed Kailash, it was him, and his words give us the answer. And here's what actually happened. Back in the 80s, the Chinese government offered Messner a permit to climb it. He turned it down flat, saying it would be a sacrilege. Then in 2001, a Spanish team got a permit, and the international outcry was just massive. Religious leaders, mountaineering groups, people from all over the world protested. And in response to that incredible pressure, the Chinese government did something amazing. They permanently banned anyone from ever trying to climb Mount Kailash. So in the end, it turns out there is an invisible force protecting Mount Kailash. It's just not a cosmic energy or a paranormal field. It's a shared human value. It's reverence. It's all of us, together deciding that some things are too sacred to conquer. We live in an age where we've mapped the deepest parts of the ocean and sent robots to other planets. We're always looking for the next thing to conquer. But Mount Kailash is this powerful reminder that maybe not everything is meant for conquest. Maybe some things are meant for respect. And perhaps that's the real miracle here. Not the myths, but the mountain's incredible power to command that reverence from all of us.